And she's a thrift store explorer, and she makes her writing out of a great variety of experiences, and the fact that she teaches a course about mathematics and literature, which is like. And she is actually living proof that the two sides of the brain are not mutually exclusive. Use them both very well. But the other thing is like the thrift shopping thing. I think that's
everything here, $2, like that.
You're going to tell us about the thrift store?
And really, doesn't that? I mean, that's that's a good metaphor really for poetry, because I mean, what do? We take previously owned words and creatively put them together, and that's so anyway.
All right. Very good.
So we came to hear your creative assemblages. So please, everybody, give a big hand to someone. A fine writer with a great last name, Marion Cohen.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, I have half an hour, so socializing or having fun. I'm enjoying that. I'll enjoy getting to meet you all afterwards. So this is my book of poetry about my course. It's about the interaction in my course. So the course is called Truth and Beauty, Mathematics and Literature. And I can only share some of this because I have other stuff to share. But the students make it a wonderful course, and I think I do too. And we interact a lot. They share a lot. Sometimes they share only with me. Sometimes they share only with each other. You know, they'll never know that. So I'm just going to read 2 poems about that. This poem is called "The Night I Almost Didn't Grow Up." And if you Google that, it's a memoir by me, published in the Humanistic Mathematics Journal. "The Night I Almost Didn't Grow Up," about how math saved me my first week of college. I was so homesick. I was so worried about that. And then I realized math is what I'm here for. Okay, so anyway, that led to students sharing a lot about how they felt the first week of college or the second year of college, some of them, you know, for boat and stuff. So, here's this. And I've changed the name of the students for the book. The hardest thing for Uma about the first week of college, they had them doing things right away. Orientation the second day. She wanted to just finish unpacking and be there in her new room. Like me, after I had my first. I wanted to just lie there and think about how wonderful the birth was, how beautiful the baby was, how great I was. I wanted to live the examined life, but not the life part just yet, only the examining. But the very next morning, meaning 3 hours later, "Okay, mother, here's your baby. Want to hold your baby? Ready to start nursing your baby?" The baby. Oh yes, the baby. And remember that poem we read a few weeks ago about dying and your life passing before your eyes? Well, can't your life pass before your eyes before you die? In order to just lie there and bask in our lives, do we have to permanently die? And here's another poem. It's called, it's in here somewhere. Here we go. It's called Proof Theory. And we had a conversation, of course, after reading the story Young Archimedes, in which a young child is a genius in math, and he exhibits this, which could never happen in reality, by discovering and proving the Pythagorean theorem, and showing how he loves it, and so on. And I said, well, actually, a colleague of mine suggested that that's not how children do math. That's not how I did. I'm not a genius in math, but I am a mathematician. And I didn't think about proving when I was little. I did think about math. Okay, so it's called Proof Theory. Uma thought she had me. I saw that gleam as she raised her hand and opened her mouth. Well, if children aren't interested in proving things, how come they're always asking why? I thought hard and fast and came up with 3. 1, children don't want details. If they ask why is the sky blue, they don't mind a little nitrogen, but they're not asking for a chemistry lesson. 2, finding out why isn't the same thing as proving, and proving doesn't always tell why. 3, kids don't always want to know, they just want to be told yes. As in, well, I can't explain why you can't have ice cream right now, so okay, yes you can. Like when my 3rd baby died, and the students all know about that. I tried to prove that she couldn't possibly have died. I said things like, but he ate so healthily. I already had 2 successful pregnancies. Prove it, God. How did you do it? How could it possibly have been done? It couldn't have happened, and therefore it didn't. And I don't believe in God, but I just talk to God sometimes. Okay, so those are 2 examples of our sharing. All right, here's a little thrift store book. It's called What I'm Wearing Today from this little press called Dancing Girl Press, which if you have a chapbook, you might send to them. Christy will consider it seriously. So I'm going to read just one short poem about what my thrift shopping is like. You see, I put things together, right? So this is called Crazy Winter Skirt. It used to be 2 skirts. 2 70s plaid, ultra pleated, ultra amazing, but alas, ultra tiny. Between them, however, more than enough waistline to make 1 ultra skirt. 2 wrongs can so make a right. And then I've written more poems about the interaction in my course, which I don't think they're going to go in one book. I'll just put them in distribute them through my books as they get published, which is hard to, as you know, find publishers. This is called, it's a poem called Geese, about a teacher who was possibly abusive. It's called If You Like, write about a teacher who seemed to be on a power trip. So this is one of my students. Samantha's 10th grade teacher assigned the class, write a paper on something you're passionate about. Samantha knew right off she wanted to write about sea glass. But the teacher said, why don't you broaden your topic a bit, write about all glass? Well, Samantha gave it a try, researched all glass, and what she found out was sea glass was the only glass she was the slightest bit interested in or passionate about. So she wrote her paper on only sea glass. She knew it was a good paper, but that teacher gave it C, the only C she'd ever gotten, probably because she hadn't taken the suggestion. I remember sea glass. It was sort of pastel and translucent and gentle, something like oak tag paper. I, too, am more passionate about sea glass than any other kind of glass. And in this poem, I don't want to write about all glass, only sea glass. That's the only glass that makes it into Samantha's paper and into this poem. But at least nobody will give this poem a C. And another poem. All right, this is called, did anybody ever feel shortchanged as a kid by your parents' passions? Which is about someone's passion, an old woman's passion about math. So the story is a very interesting story called An Old Arithmetician, written at the turn of not the last century, but the one before this, by Mary E. Wilkins, published everything in Harper's. Anyway, there are 3 books mentioned at the very end of the poem, and they're my book. They're titles of my books, and it's relevant. But one of them is Truth and Beauty, the one I just read from. So I tell the students about my parents, how it seemed they loved Beethoven, Marx, and Freud more than me. How my mother would drool, oh, Marion, you're so creative, but then immediately and quickly, of course it isn't Mozart. And the students were horrified. Lauren in the back row got that compassionate look, oh, poor you. And Lauren with an E told us how enthusiastic her father used to get about her brother's football. And then if Lauren said, look, Daddy, look at this A, he'd snap, it's not football. And Heather called out, next time she puts a bowl of chicken soup on the table, I go, delicious. Of course, it isn't McDonald's. That's right, Ma, it isn't McDonald's, nor is it the Kreutzer, Das Kapital, or the interpretation of dreams. It isn't even Dirty Details, or Crossing Equal Sign, or Truth and Beauty. It isn't especially beautiful, and it isn't especially true. So, I promised Trump poems, anti-Trump poems, obviously. So here are 2 short ones. This is called Trump Nightmare. It's my favorite Trump nightmare of mine. Somewhere, somehow, he and I are taking a walk. He's confiding in me, telling me that he killed a man. Killed him because he didn't like him. I love being considered. I love being confided in, but this time I'm afraid. I know that in a matter of minutes, his voice will turn sadistic, as it says. Now, how will I know you won't tell anyone? Yes, indeed, how will he know? And whom will he confide in next? This is my student's Trump nightmare, which she shared with us. Heather's Trump nightmare. Her real name is Heather. She dreamt she killed him, but then she woke up right away. Too bad. He needed to be dead longer than that. And nobody else has had a Trump dream, not yet. Sort of like people don't have school dreams until they've long graduated. So the Trump dreams will all come out of the woodwork when we no longer need them. A lot of people will kill him when he no longer needs to be dead.
Hard to believe.
And these are later poems that I want to read because my husband has not heard these. These probably things in here he doesn't know about me, small things. Foods to fear. In kindergarten, I was afraid of oatmeal, afraid they'd make me eat it. It looked like throwing. John loves oatmeal, by the way. I was also afraid of ice cream, afraid they'd make me eat it. It turned to liquid too quickly. In 6th grade, I wasn't afraid of Campbell's tomato soup and macaroni with little cubes of Velveeta until I threw it up. I still remember what it looked like, all mixed together with the floor. I never had that after that. And I was afraid of squash because of its name, and canned peas too slimy, and sour cream and cottage cheese. When I was a teenager, my mother started serving salad. I was used to separately cut up celery and carrots. I was afraid of salad, so I ate it without dressing. Now I'm afraid only of squid, its texture too unexpected. And soy milk, everything it's in, tastes like it and only it. And yogurt that isn't right to. And baked beans that aren't Heinz. Oh yeah, and oatmeal, see above, see directly. And this is called 16, meaning age 16, me age 16. All I wanted that he didn't have was to fall and be in love. And all I needed to get that was one boy ask me out. On our date, I'd say such wonderful things that first, he'd fall in love with me, and second, the wonderful things I'd say would cause him to be like me. So I'd fall in love with him, and that would be it forever and ever. You put your arms around someone who's putting his arms around you, and you're in love, ecstasy, nothing but ecstasy. If only one boy would ask me out. Playing in an orchestra. I do solo all the time and duets once a week, Becky's violin to my piano. And I've even played in trios once or twice, but only once have I played in an orchestra. I just started Arts High, and I guess they needed a pianist, so arranged for me to try it out, or it to try me out.
Good.
Well, first, that orchestra was more of a band, a marching band. And second, the piano I was in was facing a wall. I couldn't see the racket I was supposed to keep up with. It was shooting me again and again in the back. And I still remember the room. The wall, my upright, suffocating piano was along, also contained the door. The door was to the left, and it was a regular classroom, not the auditorium. What I remember most is, that was the last time. Arts High loved me, loved my math, loved my creative writing, even my piano, but I guess they decided no, orchestra wasn't for me, nor I for it. And to this day, orchestra is to me as trumpets were to little Mozart. Too loud, too many trumpets, too little Mozart, and too much like sports, too much cheering, too many players, too many variables, not enough constants, not enough zeros. Quirky. I'm always mixing up solstice and equinox. I asked John the other day, but now I forget again. See, there seem to be certain things my mind refuses to know. Hearing the radio, I don't always recognize a musical instrument. Is it violin, piano, flute? There are some parts of sounds that my ear refuses to hear. And I can't snap my fingers. Well, they snap, but don't make noise. There are some noises my body refuses to make. And this one poem is from my forthcoming book, meaning forthcoming any minute. The book is called New Heights in Non-Structure. A lot of it comes from my family's experience homeschooling for 8 years with my two youngest kids. And it's a lot also just about relating to kids, ways to do it, and also ways not to do it. So here's, and I mentioned my friend Kitty, who was host for our homeschooling, co-host with me for our homeschooling support group. So, and she and I would talk on the phone a lot and share our experiences and our feelings and stuff. So this is called The Forbidden G, not the G-spot, The Forbidden G. When Kitty was in first grade, she loved the letter G, the way it curled in so fancy like a spiral. But the G she liked was a specific G, the one printed in her school reading book with more than one spiral. She did not as much like the G the way the teacher told the class to make it. In secret, she wrote pages and pages of her type of G, and her teacher never found out. And here's a poem from a future book. It's similar ideas, except that most of this was written by me at age 11. It's called Excerpts from My First Memoir, aged 11. That's when I started my diary. I wrote my autobiography, realizing that it could be about inner life. So most of this, except for the last sentence, is written by me at age 11. My mother read to me a lot. Sometimes I also looked through the books on my own. One illustration showed a little girl in her room playing with her toys. "Where is her mommy?" I asked. I was worried about other children, sensitive to little things that I heard about other children, who to me seemed to lead strange, perhaps unhappy lives. I felt sorry for my friend Maureen because her family had potatoes instead of rice with their fried chicken. And I would look through what seemed to be pep-talky books designed to help children feel comfortable with different cultures. Such books made me feel suspicious. I wondered why, if everything was so okay, have a whole book about a kid's daily life, a book in which nothing else happens, no plot. I used to ask my mother, does she play? By that I think I meant, is she okay? Is she happy? Is she loved? Is she a regular child? In another book, there was a story about children drawing pictures. I recalled the phrases, they made flowers, they made tables and chairs, and then they made themselves. The book meant they drew themselves, and I probably realized that. But somehow the sentence, they made themselves, is what stuck in my mind. I remember feeling troubled. How could they make themselves? 60 years later, I asked, which part was the maker and which part was the made? And I'm going to read back pain poems, and a lot of them. There are more. There's a chapbook of them, and it will be submitted soon, and hopefully published. This is called Nocturnal. I don't know how many people read the stuff that Mike sent out. If you did, I cannot read it, but no, people did. So this is called Nocturnal Cramping. This is at the beginning, when the thing first started. Cramping at night, waking me up every 2-3 hours, and I had insomnia, middle insomnia, so I was up 2 or 3 hours after that. I couldn't rub it out very quickly. So that was how it started, nocturnal cramping. I want to have regular nights, normal human nights. Want nighttime to be special, like in Swan Lake or Smiles of a Summer Night. Want nights to be separate from days. Want my nights to separate my days, and I want to fall asleep and wake up beside John. But no, I am doomed to 3 or 4 hours, then 3 or more getting back, then another 2 or 3 hours, so my nights are like days with naps. I'm forced to live a life of days, 24-hour days, end to end. And this life is worse, yes, but it's also different. A different life, like I'm a different person. A person without nights. Like when I had my first, and she woke me with her cries every 4, 3, 2 hours. I didn't know, so I didn't sleep. And like when I was a caregiver for Jeff, he woke me with his needs and his paralysis every hour, half hour, 15 minutes. No, I don't have nights. But I do have days, and throughout each I keep reminding myself of that. I think how neither anybody else nor I could know from how I look and act and feel that I have only days, that my life from now on will be one big day. Okay, old age is not for sissies, so I guess I'm not a sissy. Only a creature who is changing, being changed, a changeling. Only a metamorphosized creature, a day creature, a creature of days, days and more days. When life consists of only days, the days are too many. Lessons from the Back Pain Book. That's what the book's going to be called. And there was a book called The Back Pain Book. 1, 2 parts. I mayn't move too far to the left, mayn't move too far to the right, mayn't bend and twist at the same time, mayn't sit too long, mayn't stand too long, mayn't walk too long, maybe be lying down too long. And the doctor says, keep moving. This is the opposite of paralyzed. I have no choice but to move, and I'm tired of moving. I want to rest. 2, don't sit down for more than 20 minutes at a stretch. Don't walk around without taking breaks. Don't lie down for too long either. Thus, I am further reminded of the impermanence of things. Not only does nothing last forever, nothing lasts more than 20 minutes, sometimes less. Or this is called It Gets Worse. So about 6 weeks ago, it got worse, and I'm talking, I would sleep for 15 minutes, and then I have to spend 2 hours, whatever. So then I called the doctor, and I asked for more medication and so on, just, stuff about that. So anyway, it gets worse. So this is kind of what it felt like at the beginning. I was really freaked out. I can't help envisioning my back, meaning envisioning what it's like. It's filled with metal, heavy metal. It's all one piece, a single stiff board in there, a suit of armor. It's no longer my back, it's somebody else's back. Another back pain book is titled Back Mechanic. Yes, mechanics, metal, hammers, nails, nuts and bolts, all mixed up and working on one another inside my skin. I always, anyway, hated spines, the whole idea of them. When I was a kid, there was a TV program, Weekly Horror Stories. It was called The Tingler. And they had a lizard-like thing, a cross between a lizard and, yes, a spine. The thing was both frightening and frightened. And Devin at 4, my youngest, after seeing the brain that wouldn't die, said, I'm sort of afraid of brains. Do I have a brain? Well, I'm sort of afraid of spines. Do I have a spine? The spine is too big, bigger than the Tingler. If it turned against me, as it has, it would win. If anybody turned against me, it would win. No, I don't like the idea of spines, but I can't think of any better idea. June 2nd. I love the outside of my body, but not the inside. I can't get to the inside. And the outside is only a surface, a boundary. It's two-dimensional, whereas the inside is 3. Anybody here ever have an MRI? All right, well, this is a poem called Inside the MRI, which I won't read, but this is about MRIs also. It's called The Human Condition. And it's a question I asked of the person who took me out of the MRI. She didn't know the answer. Here's the question, and there's the answer. Has anyone ever made a horror movie about MRIs? A sudden mean voice over those earphones, both ends closing up, that top already too close, drawing closer. I didn't let my imagination get further than that. I concentrated on trusting. I did trust most of those 25 minutes. I do trust most of the time. I have a few John poems in here. John's been great through this. This is called John Becomes My Rock. Keeps bringing me more and more fruit. Keeps bringing more and more fruit into the house. The kitchen table's alive with colors. He can't enjoy. Oh yeah, I have to tell you, I have a favorite chair. It's not as good as this chair, but it's good. I've slept in it. Okay. And I was afraid for a while to move from that chair. I was really freaked out. So anyway, John keeps bringing more and more fruit into the house. The kitchen table's alive with colors. He can't join me in that chair. But he spends more and more time in our room, sitting with his laptop on his side of the bed. And he doesn't tell me anything I should do, like take a walk or touch my toes or do my exercises. And particularly doesn't tell me to wean myself off that chair. And I remember when I thought the second bed seemed to be working, and when I told him, he smiled a smile like we were young, and I told him I was pregnant. He's strong and healthy from the gym. And though I'm usually afraid to cuddle in bed, when we go to sleep, his hand always reaches for mine. And we hold hands across the barriers, like the monkey and baby monkey in that stupid experiment. They touch through the wire net. This is called It Gets Worse at Night. This is number 2, It Gets Worse Tonight, at night. I try to fool it, make it believe this isn't nighttime. Turning on the light won't cut it. It knows this isn't sunlight. Walking around doesn't cut it. It knows this isn't a sidewalk. Night is night no matter what I do. While I'm breathing, night is a friend, day is an enemy. But here, now, night is the enemy. And early morning seems to be part of the night. And here's the poem Walking, which Mike sent out yesterday. Walking. A very young woman, sentenced to 1 to 2 years in a foreign prison for speaking against the government, believed heartily and healthy in walking. She'd walk, not pace, the floor of her 5x5. She'd have to cross it many times. Or maybe she used the diagonal 5 times the square root of 2. Or maybe she used the circumference, 20 feet. I have more length. The 40 feet from the front end of each floor to the back. I know I shouldn't sit too long like the back pain book says. I negotiate furniture, make figure eights again and again, turn around cautiously to not bend and twist at the same time, and remember eventually to swing my arms and raise my head like the back pain book says. I should walk for 5 minutes, but I try for 15. I don't count the crosses, I just watch the clock. It's boring, and sometimes I try to read a book at the same time. But then I can't swing my arms and keep my head up. I'm imprisoned, like the young woman in that article. I'm imprisoned in my house, my self-imposed house arrest. Keep within a safe radius from that chair. And I'm handcuffed to my back. I can't get rid of it. I'm not a political prisoner, but I'm treated well. I have a choice of 3 floors in which to walk, and sometimes a thick area road. And fruit in the kitchen, I can eat and walk simultaneously, half the time swinging my arms. And now finally, I'm less freaked out. I'm going to PT. I had the steroid injection, which sort of helped to some extent. That along with PT is supposed to really help. It seems to, I feel positive about it. But anyway, this is called Finally Thrifting by Myself, the first time my daughter taught me. I just couldn't miss that jewelry sale at the Roxborough Sally. First Tuesday of every month, each month cheaper than the previous, and June was the ultimate, $1 a necklace or bracelet. In 3 pay, that means 3 out of 10. I bought 14 pieces. Then, well, it was a thrift store, so I thrifted. Amazing day for sundry vintage things. It took me till 7 p. to sort through the possibilities in my cart. Yes, I took my meds promptly at 1, and yes, they made me drowsy, and I actually slept on their comfortable couch. I slept for either half an hour or 5 minutes. Then resumed shopping, and yes, my muscles felt weak, but not for long. I kept on shopping. And finally, in 0 pain, talked with my thrift store friends. I knew I was not quite a citizen, knew I was still a mere visitor, but I was a persistent visitor. I knew I'd return. As I did on Wednesday, half price day. Same store. Alternating. My favorite is what is it, Rising Sun? Sally? Okay, this is called Talking to Neurontin. Anyone here ever take Neurontin? It's quite good for nerve pain. And you'll see, you know why this poem, you know why this poem is called Talking to Neurontin? They're such cute little creatures, little Mexican jumping beans, the pretend ones from my childhood, non-pink and non-white good and plenties. Come on, you cuties, time for one of you to come with me. No, not me, they shriek, please don't pick me. But yes, I do pick one of them, whichever one comes out first, and 2 at night. Now it's 3. No, it screams, it echoes as it goes down my throat. But it also sees the good it's doing, the reason it's for its existence, and is happy to die for the cause. Once the little critter rebelled and snapped, I'll get you back. I won't kick in very much, and it didn't. This is called a tiny thought at age 74. I figure I have maybe 12 more good years. Well, over 6 decades ago, I figured I had maybe so many years left of childhood. I could handle it then. I hope I can handle it now. This poem is called Mozart to the Rescue. It was the hour before we left for the steroid injection. Of course, I was panicked. In the final hour that is trying my soul, I turned once again to my book of Mozart piano sonatas. 10 years ago, navigating a different kind of long-term nerve pain with slow-acting medication, I turned to Beethoven. Dark, impetuous, existential, sad, and difficult to play. It was what I needed. It helped pass the time, and I thought how Beethoven got through his final painful illness via his music. Now, for me, it's Mozart. Mozart has a different message, or at least these sonatas. That message is, well, long ago my father expressed it as, dee-da-lee-da-lee. Dee-da-lee-da-lee. How about a little Mozart? Whenever anyone was in pain or frightened. Beethoven's sudden accidentals are scary. Mozart's are mischievous. He's mischievous in general. Like in the left hand, C major. F sharp G, F sharp G, F sharp G, F sharp G, E G, D G, E G, C G. And some sweet but tricky tune in the right hand is about to join the mischief. Dee-da-lee-da-lee, I sing. Don't mind those doctors coming at you. Don't mind your own body kidnapping you. Pay no attention to that big room into which they wheel you, with all that large machinery, most of which they won't use on you. Pay no attention to what they will use on you. Don't forget Mozart. How about a little Mozart? Dee-da-lee-lee, dee-da-lee-lee. And here's a poem which I want to read, which is, I'm almost finished with this reading, by the way. It was after my other illness, which precluded uninterrupted sleep for more than 2 hours, and slow-acting medication and stuff. It was a nerve thing. And I'll read the poem. I called it Sleep When I Was All Better. I have a new toy. Well, an old toy returned. I play with it all night, so sleep is the toy. I play with it all day. I play it with dreams. I play it without dreams. I play and try it all different ways. This toy is both an ordinary doll, merely pretty, and an action figure. Look what it can do. I carry it in my pocket. I keep reaching in, make sure it's still there. And who gave me this toy? Whoever it was that took and could again take it away. And now when I have, it's different now, because I've had painless nights and I just don't sleep. I mean, I sleep for enough hours. I sleep after one of my meds makes me drowsy and I sleep. So I get my 8 hours, sometimes more, like last night. I think I'll read 2 more poems, okay? So I don't want to end with this poem. But it's also that back pain. It's called The Agony, as opposed to the agony and the ecstasy. These days and weeks, these hang in there days and weeks, when I look at photos of the former me, I feel as though I had back pain then, too. And when in magazines I see photos of healthy people at the beach, say, or jogging, well, they have back pain, too. Everybody in the world has back pain. Back pain is a condition of being human. There's no such thing as not having back pain. Babies have back pain, children have back pain, young and old lovers have back pain. If there were a God, God would have back pain. Objects have back pain. The universe has back pain. It moves and flexes despite the pain. It's a citizen of itself. And here's a quick poem, also from my teaching the course. It's called A Childhood, and it's also from the story An Old Arithmetician, about an old woman, older than me, older than any of us, who loves math, good at it, and the neighbors respect her and love her for it. It's really a very, very nice story. Anyway, it's called H. So one of the things I asked was, do you think Mrs. Torrey had a regular childhood? She talks about her childhood, how she liked to count, sometimes rather than play. So, A Childhood. Do you think Mrs. Torrey had a regular childhood? Here's the poem. Sienna tells us when she was a kid, she was afraid of the other kids. They were so big. She said her sister went outside all the time, but she never wanted to. And when she was bad, her parents didn't ground her. They did the very opposite. They sent her outside. Not to worry, she'd bring a book with her and find a quiet hidden spot. Like the little bird in that poem, the north wind doth blow, and we shall have snow. And what will the robin do then, poor thing? He'll sit in a barn to keep himself warm and hide his head under his wing, poor thing. Yes, hide his head under his wing. I'm finished. Thank you all.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Great
Yeah,
audience.
it's wonderful.
Very
I,
good.
I didn't realize I had back pain until you. But actually, overall, after hearing you, I feel better.
Oh, okay. Well, this was horrible. Obviously, something had to be done about it, and we're still working on it, PT and stuff.
Well, I'm sorry you went through it, but you got a lot of good writing out of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get out of everything.
Well, let's hope it's in the past soon,
But a lot of amazing work. One of the astonishing thing, you were in a marching band with a piano.
Well, no, but it seemed like it to me. I wasn't a band person or an orchestra person, whatever it was, yeah. I still don't particularly like orchestral music, as I might have said. I prefer, what do they call, chamber music, or just play piano music, which I can play all by myself,
Well, thank you so much. You can come in and
Yeah,
have a
why don't
seat
you
if
come
there are
in?
a couple of seats.
There are a couple of seats. It's okay if you